Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Cat, Stacey Taylor. You know, I always say, I just sit here and talk. You're the ones who do all the work. So congratulate yourself. You're doing the work. Taylor from Abbotsford. Oh, a neighbor. I'm in Vancouver. Abbotsford's maybe an hour and a half drive from here. Maine, right on the Canadian border. Maine. I thought it was Bellevue or Blaine. I thought it was Blaine. Maine. Okay. Maine, Washington. I'm curious now. Sorry, I've got to check it out. Didn't come up. Oh, way over there. Oh, I see. Oh, stupid me. Yeah, I'm in Vancouver, so you're way over, like, wow. Montreal, New Brunswick, Quebec City. Oh, I see. Stupid me. I was thinking the West Coast. South Mississippi. Hello, Lauren. Okay. I've already started on YouTube. Anyway, let's get going. My name is Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. If you go on my website, it's BratBusters.com. You can get my free behavior board. You can look into my 2 courses. They're called boot camp courses. There's one on toddlers, one for older kids. You can get on the wait list for coaching if you want to work with me. I'll get to you eventually. It's kind of a big wait list, but I'll get through it eventually. And also then you can listen to the podcast if you just want to do that. It's called BratBusters Parenting Podcast. It's on all the platforms, and we save it on YouTube. YouTube kind of has everything, all the videos, the podcasts, the lives. That's where we save all this stuff. So, okay, so let's get going with your questions. I'll do my best to answer them. I'm on YouTube the whole time whenever I'm doing a live, and then I hop from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok. I go from my smallest platform to my biggest. So, although Facebook is my fastest growing platform for some reason. No, can't figure it all out. Okay, so what are your questions? I'll do my best to answer them. New Zealand, that's where we used to ski because we lived in Australia. And we used to go down to Queenstown. It was mostly Europeans there. No Australians, no. Yeah, it was all Europeans down there, which I thought was fascinating. Why wouldn't it be more Australians? I don't know. Anyway, wonderful. Oh, it was just something about that place. I don't think Queenstown's big enough to be a city. It's pretty small, but geez, I just loved it. It was so beautiful. Okay, that's where all of the adventure sports were invented. You know, whitewater rafting, all that stuff, bungee jumping. It was all invented right in Queenstown area. Okay, what's your philosophy for when other kids are being mean to my kids? Depends on the situation. If you're babysitting someone else's kids and they're mean to your kids, then you can follow through with this leadership disciplining stuff. But if the other parents are around, I just pick my kids up and leave. I never micromanage other people's parenting or anything. There's not much you can do. Not much you can do. If the parents are around, nothing you can do. If they're not parenting and preventing it, you can't say anything. You can't. Yeah, it's tough. Kaylee from Oregon, welcome. Okay, Alton, Illinois. Alton, haven't heard of that before. That's Shannon. Hi, Shannon. Okay, I keep missing your live videos. So grateful to catch it tonight. Oh, excellent, Shannon. Yeah, I never know when I'm going to be on. It just depends when I can smash it in between work and night or whatever I'm doing. So I love doing lives. I would say my favorite thing to do is coaching. I love it. My second favorite is doing the podcast with my daughter because we get to work together. And then this is my third thing. It's all talking to people, right? I love that. How do I handle jealousy in my 4.5-year-old over my 1-year-old? So the 4.5-year-old's jealous over the 1-year-old. Well, they're very different. Little babies tend to get more attention, but I would include the 4.5-year-old more. My kids were a 5-year split. So it was kind of similar. But yeah, I was never talking the same way to the little one. So my son and I, our relationship never skipped a beat because we were still chatting all the time. So yeah, at 4.5, they don't need you to play with them as much, but they love it when you talk about what they're doing. And so yeah, you're not talking to the 1-year-old the same way usually. So maybe give that a go. I got lots of different ideas, but I just make sure that I do talk to the older one a lot. Like my son and I don't remember our relationship changing at all when his sister came along. He had just turned 5 2 weeks before she was born. And, thanks for You know what's funny is I have two sweaters like this. Someone said they like my sweater. One is black and white, black and cream stripes. I get more compliments on that sweater than anything else I have. I hate it. I don't mind this one as much, but I hate the stripe black, and I don't like anything flashy. Yeah, I'm very plain. So that's why I don't like the stripes. I don't know why I got it, but anyway. Oh, excellent, Mama 4278008. She said that the videos have helped the parenting. So that's why I'm on here. That's why I do these lives, because even in the lives, I mean, I still like answering questions. The only place we ever answer questions anymore, we just don't have time, is my daughter sometimes answers DMs. I don't know how many of those she answers. I don't know if she does actually. We just don't have time. So, and that's something we have to do. And even that, she sends a lot to me to check, and I rarely ever change anything. She knows me inside out. But yeah, it is on the podcast. That's where if you want me to answer questions other than alive, you can submit them on the website, BratBusters.com, for the podcast. And my daughter chooses which one she's going to go with. So. Okay, Shannon says, I heard you say you had allowance versus earning money with chores. How much do you recommend a week? And does that include doing their daily responsibilities? Yeah, I always separated allowance from chores. Chores are, you live here, you have to clean up after yourself. I'm not going to pay for that. It's ridiculous. Let's say they get a roommate one day and they clean up their dirty dishes. Is their roommate going to pay for that? Like, I just don't see it as reality. So I would never pay for chores. Unless they did something like detail my car, when they're older, then I would pay for the big extra stuff. But just cleaning up after themselves, making their bed, no way. But I do believe children deserve to learn about money. So what I did was I gave my kids, I don't remember how much it was, to be honest. It might have been their age per week or half their age per week. And I started them at 3. So if they were 3, they might have got $1.50 per week. I really don't remember. I didn't keep the journals. I had 2 journals that we went through all those years, because every Saturday we do the deposit, right? And I just wrote it down. And I wrote down what it was for. If we took any money out, I wrote down that. So they always were seeing what was happening. And I also paid interest on it. I have a lot of videos on exactly how I did that. If you want to, God, I wish I'd kept those journals. I remember throwing them out thinking, oh, I'll never need these. Oh, I'm so mad, because it was a kind of like a weekly journal of our lives in some instances, like I'd write down what we bought, anyway, so I'm mad that I threw those out. But yeah, you can just Google BratBusters allowance, and there'll be lots of videos on that. Okay. Oh, excellent. I'm happy about that. This is Dodd, Domato, Mac. Sorry, I get those names wrong all the time. When I'm working, and I work with people all over the world, and I usually write down their name phonetically, like how you say it, and I still mess it up. So. How would you do behavior boards when you're in a blended family but stay in 2 different homes? Well, you just have the same behavior board if everyone is in agreement, but you can't tell another household how to run their household. So, and the leadership will almost always take over from anything else, because the leadership is the guidance under a leader is what builds their self-esteem. They like themselves the most usually when they're with a leader, because the leader brings out the best in them and plays with them, and is really connected. So yeah, don't worry about what the other household's doing if they're not in agreement with any of this or whatever. Just do what you do, and they will tend to carry that leadership umbrella around everywhere they go. And they're very good at adjusting to where they are. Like, kids are different at school. They're different with grandparents. They're different with their friends. They're very adaptable. They tend to be very different with different people, even from about the age of 1.5 to 2. You can see it, how they are with their parents, how they are with the grandparents, how they are with the person at the library or whatever. They have different relationships with everybody. So just worry about what you do. But if you can get on the same page, that's even better. So I'm just going to scroll ahead to make sure you're still here when I answer, because people come and go all the time. Okay, I don't have a great answer for this, and I'll tell you why in a second. This is Chelsea. How do I get my 2.5-year-old to stay still at the table while eating? I take his food away, but he refuses to eat at all. I'm going to kind of go around that one because I can't talk about nutrition and food really because it's more of a medical issue. My hands are kind of tied with that. But when it comes to manners, if you ever let him have snacks around the house, he's not going to learn to sit still at the table. He's not going to understand, why do I get to eat around the house sometimes and not other times? So yeah, you got to train him that every time you want to eat and drink. My kids knew there's no food around the house or drinks around the house. They knew if they wanted to eat or drink, they didn't know that you could actually leave. Like they literally would just wait until I said, oh, you all done? Okay, let's go. They literally didn't even know that was possible because they never knew any different. You sit and eat at the table. So, but if they won't eat at all, that's sort of a different thing. I'd have to figure that out. Okay. Also, do they have too many snacks? Sometimes they come to a meal and they've had too many snacks throughout the day. They can still have snacks, but you want to keep them really light, like just maybe a handful of blueberries or something. And this where I can't talk about nutrition. If they're allergic to blueberries, don't give them blueberries. But you get where I'm saying. You don't want to give them any heavy snacks throughout the day so that they won't eat a meal. So you want them to come to the table hungry, basically. Plus, you want to eat with them and you want to sort of chat while you're eating, and it becomes a social thing, and they like that, right? A lot of parents tend to feed their little ones and then eat later on. If you're going to choose to do that, that's fine, but sit with them anyway. You always want to sit with them when they're eating. A lot of parents say, well, they just won't sit at the table, but then you're off doing something else. You're in the kitchen. So yeah, sit with them. There's lots more I could say to that, but I'm just keeping it short for the sake of the live. Oh, you're asking about should they still drink milk? That's a nutritional question. I'm not qualified for that. I'm not a doctor or a nutritionist. I'm just a parenting coach, so I can't talk about nutrition. It's one of those things that I have opinions on it, but they're not educated opinions. Like if I'm giving you parenting advice, I've practiced this with hundreds of kids. I've raised a family. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel very confident in what I'm saying. But if I gave you advice about food, that's just my own opinion, which is not what you're here for. You're here for practiced, this works, right? Yeah, I do let occasional snacking around the house. That's probably why. Yeah. They don't understand exceptions. Yeah, they just don't. It would be like they'd have a fit if you tried to get them in the car seat. They might be doing that already. But if sometimes they don't have to be, they just want to crawl around the back seat. Other times they have to get in the car. They just don't understand that stuff, right? And fair enough. Okay. This is from Kay on YouTube. Oh, I got a couple of questions here. Okay, I'll read the last one that was just entered. 3-year-old says, you're not a good daddy, randomly. Then we started to say those are hurtful words. They're not listening. They don't care about that. They know that. That's why they're saying it. They're just trying to get under your skin. So you're just validating them. By the way, you accomplished what you were after. You were hurtful. But he does not like being corrected, spoken to. He will tantrum, yell, and close his eyes and hide. Yeah, don't bother doing that. Yeah. You're not a good daddy. I would just go, oh, well, and then just change the subject. Yeah, he's just trying to see if he can control your emotions. And it obviously gets under your skin. So, he did it. And then you correct him, and he already feels like he's in a position of power. So he doesn't want to be told anything at that point because he doesn't respect you. That's all that says. That's what that says to me. He has no respect for you. Work on your leadership skills, earn the respect, and that stuff just doesn't happen. They don't talk to a leader like that. Do you have any advice on how to remain happy and play while things are blowing up in bad ways? So the kids are crazy okay. You always want to address bad behavior. Okay. So yeah, if you check out the free behavior board though, we are just addressing one thing per week. So I wouldn't let anything go, but I'm level 10 with this because I invented all this stuff, right? But when you're learning, you're just addressing one bad behavior at a time because you're learning how to do it. The rest of the stuff you're just going to have to struggle through. What you're asking me is, do you have any advice on how I can control my own emotions? No, unfortunately, that's your responsibility. Your emotions, I can't help you with that. You have to self-regulate yourself. I can't regulate you. And that is the struggle with all this. It's like anything. That's like if you go to a diet center and say, can you help me not eat the cake in the fridge? That is your challenge. Your actions, your words, your emotions, all that stuff. That is your responsibility. So I wish there was something I could say, but there just isn't. I remember I used to teach fitness and teach classes. And I remember one guy, and I had a good relationship with him. He was a regular, so we used to laugh a lot. So he says to me, he says, yeah, I'm great once I'm here, but how do I get myself here? So of course, being the smarty pants I am, I said, I'll tell you what, I'll put my alarm on. It's a 6 a.m. class. I'll put my alarm on for, instead of 5, I'll put it on for 4:30. Give me a spare key to your house. I'll swing past your house, let myself in, slap you across the face in bed with a wet fish, help you get dressed, and drive you to the gym. Would that help? Yeah, he said, okay, fine, never mind. Yeah, that is the challenge. Getting yourself to the gym, not eating the chocolate cake in the fridge, controlling your emotions when you're doing all this leadership stuff. It's just hard. But once you're there, it's easy. Okay, because once you see the results, it gets easier. Every time I see a client who just turns that corner and they just get it, they just go, wow, this was so easy. If I could have just put my emotions on the back burner, months ago or whatever, they said it would have been so much better. But that is the hard part. P.S. My daughter. Okay, I mean the world, Lisa. Oh, like how much do you share and how much do you approach being prepared? Okay, well, the other information was good too. Okay, yeah, that depends on the age. It's age appropriate. I'm not a big doomsday person. Like I don't tend to want to watch the news because unless I'm going to do something about the world problems, I don't want it to bring me down. So I watch very minimal news these days. Not saying that's the right way to do it, but I did. And, I didn't focus on that because it scares kids. I can remember years and years ago, well, obviously I was a kid, and they were talking about, what was it? It was, I think, the earthquake. There were all these warnings about an earthquake, like, because we're on the San Andreas Fault, right? We're up in Vancouver. We're on the tail end of it, but still. And I can remember that. I remember being terrified. I also remember the USSR. We were told that missiles were going to be coming over from them. That's Russia. We used to call it the USSR. And I can remember being terrified of that. So every time I heard about the news, I was terrified. I don't think kids need to know a lot, when they're young. So, yeah. How do you approach being prepared? I don't think you need to prepare kids for the world problems in a big way. Yeah, I just don't. I've got I could go on about that one. But anyway, my daughter did great with the same person. My daughter did great with the behavior board. It took a couple of weeks and fighting back with one meltdown, but I'm gaining respect. Perfect. You're working. Good for you. Good for you. Hi, Tabitha. She's a real regular here on YouTube. Okay, so let me move on to Facebook now. Well, I'm already here. I meant the questions. Okay. This is Haley. What consequences do you recommend? They say no spanking. Timeout seems impossible because they don't stay. What consequences are we using? Okay, you must be new here. I hate timeout and I don't recommend spanking. I think timeout's horrible. I think it's mean. I really do. So yeah, just check out my free behavior board. It explains how you do all that. It's on my website, BratBusters.com. It's probably linked somewhere too. So yeah, just check that out. It'll explain how you do all that. Because a lot of people here are regulars. I don't want to go through the exact same process all the time. But yeah, the behavior board actually is in 2 parts. It doesn't start till they're 3, but there's also a section in there. It's all free, the behavior board. And then there's also a little mini course on toddlers, how you discipline toddlers. A toddler to me is 16 to 35 months. It's just the way I broke it down. Okay, I think you heard my bell go here. So I've got to hop over to Instagram. If you want to join me over there, it's BratBusters.com. I'm on YouTube the whole time. And if you don't want to join me over there, then you can check out my website if you want. It's called BratBusters.com. It's you can get my free behavior board, which has a toddler section in there too. And you can look into my boot camp courses. I have one for toddlers, one for older kids. If you want to get on the wait list for coaching, you can do that. It's a big wait list, but I'll get to you eventually. Or if you want to listen to the podcast, it's called BratBusters Parenting Podcast, and it's on all the platforms. Do you know what everyone's doing right now on YouTube? And it's driving me nuts. Tell me if this is annoying you too. This is just a sideline. They're saying, we're trying to reach 1 million. Can we'd really appreciate you subscribing. I don't like that. Do you like that? When they, why am I trying to help you market? Why am I trying to help you grow? Don't ask me to do that. If I want to subscribe, I will. Don't ask me to help you. I don't know. What is that? Why don't I like that? It's kind of, I don't know. I just don't like that. Like, I don't think I've ever asked anyone to subscribe. You can get the free behavior board. You have to subscribe to the newsletter there, but to just go on and say, I'm trying to reach 1 million. Can you help me get rich? I think that's it. Can you help me get rich? I just can't stand it. It just struck me as funny. I saw it so many times today. I almost commented, and I don't do negative comments, but I almost said something. It drives me so nuts. Can you help me get rich? Come on. Anyway, okay, sorry, I just had to rant a little bit. Okay, I'm hopping over to Instagram now, and I'm on YouTube the whole time. Happy parenting. Does anyone here on YouTube agree with me that that's inappropriate? Or I don't know, I just don't like it. Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's like, help me get rich. It's not my job. I'm just here to get some information here or be entertained. Okay, I'm just waiting for everyone to turn up. Yep, annoying. Okay, so someone else agrees with me. Thanks, Tabitha. Yay, Tabitha. Got support with that. Yeah, I can't stand it. It really annoys the heck out of me. Yeah, I need some more money. Can you help me get rich? That's what they're saying. So I'm not talking to you. I'm just joking. It's something I started. I was talking about in Facebook. I was just finishing that comment. It's how I don't like people on YouTube say, I'm trying to get to 1 million. Can you make sure you subscribe? And it's like they're asking you, can you help me get rich? It just annoys the heck out of me. It's that entitlement stuff. I hate that stuff. Like doesn't count if you beg for it. Yeah, I don't like it. If I'm going to follow someone, I'll do it. Don't ask me to do that. I don't like that. It bothers me. Anywho, welcome to my live. My name's Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. I was just ranting about something. And if you check out my website, it's BratBusters.com. And you can look into my free behavior board, my boot camp courses. I have one on toddlers, one for older kids. You can also look into coaching if you want to work with me. I do have a big wait list, but I'll get to you eventually. Actually, I got to look at that. I'll try and look at that later. I don't know how many people are on there now. And also the podcast, if you want to listen to that, there's no wait list for that. And that's completely free. It's called BratBusters Parenting Podcast. It's on all the platforms and we save it on YouTube. Anyway, let's get going. Someone said I wish I knew the age. Amy, car seat refusal, how old? It's kind of the same answer anyway. Okay. She said car seat refusal. You just follow through it with action. I don't discuss that. If they don't want to get in a car seat, we used to do the karate chop. I remember my friends and I used to laugh at this. You've got like this toddler who's stiff as a board because they don't want to get in the car seat. Oh yeah, about 2. Stiff as a board because they don't want to get in the car seat. You just hold them over the car seat, wait till they take a breath and they weaken a little bit. And then you just fold them in the waist. Fold them in, clip, clip, clip. Like don't look at them or talk to them or anything. They will learn that it's going to happen anyway. So they'll just stop fighting after a while. We used to call it the karate chop. Yeah, you just do the karate. We didn't chop them, like that, but we used to call it the karate chop. Anyway, no, I had to do the karate chop. He was screaming, didn't want to get in the car seat. Chop, slap, slap. He's in. He had to be there. It was very funny. Okay. Oh, that's sweet. Thanks, Marla. What's your stance on potty training? I don't have a stance. I have a whole system. I can't give it out here because it's a whole system. You have to buy the courses to get that. But yeah, 2.5 is a good age to potty train. And it's all based on incentive. It's a whole system. You set up a party. My son was trained in 1 day, my daughter in 2. No pull-ups, no night diapers, nothing. It's not always good. I was already a leader, so it was easier for me. If you train them too early, they might regress. Like 18 months is really early to potty train. The odd kid will be trained and never regress, but they're more likely to regress if they're trained too early. Oh, thanks. I appreciate all your support. Saying these nice things. It's lovely. Yeah, we really enjoy the podcast. We go into a lot more detail in there, obviously, and my daughter picks and chooses. I'm not good at if I plan something, I can't talk. I have to think off the top of my head. So she does all the planning. I never know what we're going to be talking about, and I just love that. I love that. Oh, you're very welcome, Amy. Yeah, she's in charge of all that stuff. She does all the planning for the business. I need to know the age. I'm going to answer this. I'm going to answer this anyway, and I'm going to make up an age. Okay, this is Nini says, what do you think about explaining to a little kid that she can't leave the yard by her own because strangers can pick them up and they will never see her parents again? Yeah, I scared my kids safe. I would always rather scare the kids and keep them alive than worry about scarring them. That stuff, that information doesn't tend to scar them. You know, I used to tell my kids that, I won't go into it here in case there's kids listening. You don't want them to hear this stuff. But yeah, I scared my kids. And they just go, oh, okay, I won't do that. I scared them enough that they wouldn't just talk to a stranger. They wouldn't keep secrets. They wouldn't think that a stranger came up and your mom had an accident and the stranger has to, because they'll say stuff like that, right? Oh, your mommy and daddy were in a bad car accident. We have to take you to the hospital. Stuff like I told them all that stuff. And you know what's interesting is they go, oh, okay, I won't do that. But then they forget about it and they go play. So they bounce back. But yeah, I scared them safe. Absolutely. I'd rather overshoot that way than hold back and then being grabbed by some freak, right? And I gave them permission to say no to anybody, adults, whatever, teenagers. I gave them permission to say no. If they're not comfortable, say no. And if they do feel unsafe, if they're out on their own, like by the time they're 5, they might be sort of meandering at some excursion. Do you know, I went to every single school excursion all my kids did except one. I think I'd had back surgery or something happened and I wasn't able to go. Oh, it was horrific. And I couldn't get my husband at the time to go either. So it was horrific because I've seen that, you know, they get parents to help and not all parents are that safe. And there'd be like a kid straggling, you know, and I'm like horrified. Oh, anyway, that's why I went to every single school excursion. I was able to. I was a stay-at-home mom. Okay, not everyone can do that. I ignore my kids when they are whining, but they get mad at me and scream. And without looking at them, I say, I won't pay attention if you're whining. Depends on the age. If they're a little bit older, like 3 and above, this is what I tell kids when they whine. I'd say, look, when you whine, I treat whining not like bad behavior. I treat it like a really unfortunate affectation. It's like vocal fry, you know, like those type, like Kim Kardashian does a vocal fry. It's like a cool, I don't care about anything. So it's like that. It's whining, vocal fry. It's an affectation. So I don't treat it like a bad behavior. I just say, I'll tell you what, when you whine, people find that annoying. So I'm going to train you out of it. Here's what we're going to do. Every time you whine, you might not even be aware you're doing it. I'm going to touch my nose every time you whine. And that means that I'm not going to talk to you until you talk properly. And this is what whining is. That's whining. So you might not even be aware you're doing it. I'll let you know. And then I will ignore you until you talk properly. By the way, when I do answer you, the answer may still be no. You reward them with attention, but you don't reward them with giving them whatever they were whining about, right? I want ice cream. You're not just going to give them ice cream when they ask for it nicely. You're just going to answer them and say, no ice cream right now. So, and by the way, they never whine really more than once unless it's worked. Like they just don't tend to whine unless it's worked. It either annoys you or it gets them what they want. You'll just, okay, just to shut them up, give them whatever they want. So yeah, whining is not something that they come out of the womb doing. It's something you train them to do. And you can train them out of it. Yeah, 3.5-year-old tells us when she wants to go, but still have accidents. Daycare won't put her in the next class until she's completely trained. Yeah, that would be coaching. I'd have to figure out what's going on. I don't know what's going on with her. And some kids are just slower. They just get the message slower than other kids, right? So it could just be that. But that would be coaching. I'd have to ask a lot of questions to figure that out and what to do next. What age were your kids when you started scaring them? Yeah, with information? About 3. As soon as they went to kindy on their own. Yeah, about 3. They could start to comprehend, stuff. So, yeah. Like when I say they went to kindy on their own, they weren't driving themselves there, but, they were sort of out and they started kindergarten. In Australia, it's called kindy at 3. Well, in Brisbane, where we lived, at 3 years old, they go to kindy. 4, they go to preschool. 5, they start grade 1. That's the way it's done there. So, yeah, at kindy, when they were off, sort of That if anyone talks to them over the fence and they go over and talk to someone, or that someone could grab them, stuff like that. I told them that stuff all the time. And it didn't scare them. It actually empowered them. They felt like they had information. And as they got older, I told them more and more. I didn't keep a lot in. I told my kids a lot. And if they asked questions that were above their age when it comes to, information about, I don't want to say anything out loud in case kids are listening. I would just say, I'll tell you what, we'll talk about that when you're older. Okay. Yeah. Someone, Kay said, my 4-year-old is so social, he will talk and touch any stranger anywhere. Well, touch is off limits. You say that's private. You don't go touching other people, right? So I would put a stop to that. But talking to people, say it's fine to talk to anyone, so long as we're around. Okay. But if you're on your own, you just talk to the adults that you're with, right? Because at 4, he's going to be with an adult. So I didn't push my kids to be overly friendly, like with adults and that, oh, say hello. I didn't push them that way a lot because of that. I remember once I was in the supermarket and my first child, my son, was just, 10 months old maybe. And I was carrying him and I was at the checkout. And this older man, you just have this spidey sense. Something off about him. I didn't feel comfortable. He went to touch my son's cheek like that. And I said, don't touch my baby, please. And he goes, well, aren't you a helicopter parent or something like that? And then he went to touch him again. And I said, I'm going to call the police if you don't leave us alone. He took off like a bullet, much to my surprise. And the manager came over and said, good, because I said it very loud. I'm going to call the police if you don't leave my baby alone. And then he took off like a bullet. And the guy said they've been trying to get rid of him for years. He comes in and tries to touch all the little kids and the babies. And he didn't come back evidently after that. So yay. Don't you touch my baby, freak. There's something wrong with him. Never apologize for that. If anyone, what's interesting is if a kid is trained right, he'll say no. He should say no to an adult who's trying to do something, even help them. I live on a busy street in Vancouver. And there was this little boy, had just come out of a store. And I guess his parents were behind him. He would have been 4 maybe. And they said, he was going to push the walk signal. Well, he leaned into the road, hanging onto the pole after touching the walk signal. A bus was coming. Literally, he could have been beheaded because they just come so close, right? And the parents, where the heck are they? Anyway, so I pulled him back and I said, you're too close to the road, and tell your parents that where are your parents? And he says, you can't touch me. And I said, you're right. I shouldn't have, but I'd do it again if you got that close to a bus. Anyway, and I thought, good for him. And I said, good for you. Your parents taught you that well. I didn't criticize them in front of them and say, where the heck are they? But they finally came out and I just said, look, he was leaning into the road and the bus came along. Oh, okay. They were just, whatever. Anyway, I was mad at that. But good for that kid for saying, you can't touch me. He should be able to say that. And I agreed with him. I said, you're absolutely right. Good for you. So that you want to empower them to say stuff like that to a stranger, right? But I'd do it again. Could have been beheaded. What if your teen doesn't care about any consequences? Yeah, I've got a whole, they're my favorite age, by the way. I'm going to read out my top 5 tips for parenting teenagers. Number 1, listen to understand and show empathy. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with, or they will tune you out. If they want your advice, they'll ask for it. They already know it anyway, so they probably won't. Number 2, negotiate as much as possible with teenagers. Hey, I want your dirty clothes in the hamper from now on. What do you want from me? Back and forth. You give respect to get it, right? Reciprocity. Number 3, with teenagers, don't sweat the small stuff. If they do something stupid and it's not a big deal, just say, well, that was stupid. Do you want to hear what I did when I was your age? And laugh it off. Or do you want to hear what I did yesterday? They're allowed to make mistakes just like you did and just like you do. We're all allowed to make mistakes, okay? Number 4 is don't leverage the good times to discuss the bad times. Often I'll coach someone on how to connect with their teenager, and then I say, do not discuss the bad times. Every so often someone sneaks through that and they say, they gave me the finger and I said, what'd you say? And they said, well, I didn't discuss the bad times. I just said, I'm so glad that you're easier to get along with now. They couldn't figure out why the teenager gave him the finger. I just said, you messed up. Anyway, so yeah, when's a good time to discuss the bad times? Never. What's the point? It's just revenge on your part. It's petty. You don't need to discuss the bad times. Number 5, you can be a right fighter or you can be happy. A teenager will die on any hill arguing, even if they know they're wrong. Okay? So just say, oh, let's just talk about it later, or let's just forget it. Don't say when you're calm or anything. That's an accelerator. That's, it's not a good thing to do. But yeah, you can be a right fighter or you can be happy. That could be said pretty much for any adult relationship too. I used to be a really good right fighter. I'm pretty quick with words. And you know how you think later on, oh, I wish I'd said that. I used to be able to say it. I was pretty witty in my younger years. Not now, I've slowed down a lot. But you know what? It's not a likable quality. I don't do it anymore. It's just not likable. Like, wow, how impressive. Lisa's so quick with words. How witty. It's not likable though. It's not a nice way to be. So yeah, but if someone came at me in a negative way, I was pretty good at leveling them. I don't like bullies. Now I just say whatever, walk away. I don't get bullied a lot at my age, but you know what I'm saying. It's not likable. So don't do it with your teenagers or your kids either. I remember once I said to my dad, I was mad at something. And I said, I wouldn't love you if you weren't my daddy. And he just laughed. I was so mad because he laughed, but I didn't understand why he laughed. I basically just said, love you, Dad. Stupid kid. Yeah, I wasn't very bright when I was a kid, obviously. Thought that was pretty funny. But I didn't understand why he was laughing. But I was too stupid to figure it out. So that made me even more mad because I knew I was too stupid to figure it out. So I ended up just storming off. And I heard both my parents laughing in the other room. I knew I'd just been stupid, but I didn't know how. Well, someone said, this is M. Victoria, how to give consequences to a 3-year-old that imitates the bad behavior of a 1-year-old. I don't care what they're imitating. If they're bad, put it on the behavior board, whatever you don't want them doing. Like if a 1-year-old's hitting something, whatever, banging something they shouldn't be, and they do it, just say no hitting the window or whatever it is. And then say, but the baby does it. Yeah, they're a baby. You did it when you were that age too. Don't get pulled into that age difference thing. I mean, you use age as a reason, right? Well, the baby can do stuff that when you were 1, you used to do that too. But now you're 3, you're a big boy, or a big girl, whatever. So yeah, just put it on a behavior board. They're just testing you. Oh, you got a 2.5-year-old biting, how to correct. You just say no, and you physically push them away or restrain them. Don't let them get in any future bites either, okay? Like once they bit you once, don't let them keep biting you because it becomes muscle memory. They just get used to doing it, and they're not listening to you. They're watching you. You always use consistent corrective actions with toddlers. That's 16 to 35 months. They're not about words. All these mini therapy sessions discussing all their big feelings and big emotions is absolute crap. I don't know anyone else out there who's teaching parenting. I'd stay away from all that. But I hear that it's being taught like that. Like it's just big. And, they get down their level and you hold their hand, get eye contact and say, use your words. What a patronizing, ignorant thing to do. I just can't believe that stuff. Anyway, yeah, they're just say a quick no. And then you use consistent corrective actions. You remove them from the fun or the fun from them. If they're biting, you just say, you remove yourself. You say no, and then you just sort of wander off. Okay. And if they keep coming at you, just prevent future bites, but you don't keep saying no. You just keep pushing them away and don't let them continue to bite. Remember, they're not listening to you. You always enter their world. You show them respect by entering their world. Their world is not words yet, okay? They kind of understand them. That's not the point. That's not how they learn, though. They learn through actions when they're toddlers. Words are okay. They might learn that way, but that's not their language. Their main language is actions. And even that, trying to reason with a 2-year-old, I think it's very disrespectful because you're expecting them to find their inner adult. What you're saying when you say, use your words, you're saying, be more like me. You see how patronizing it is? And yeah, they will actually parrot you. Oh, I'm sorry. And don't do it again. I won't do it again. Okay. So you promise, I promise. And then they turn around and bite you again. You can't figure it out. Of course they're going to bite you again. That was all just parroting you to shut you up. They're not listening. That does nothing for them. Nothing. And that's like, you don't Even older kids, you don't just say, you shouldn't do that. Don't do that again. What's the point in saying that? That's so stupid. Why would you say that? It's the consequences which teach us all, right? Could you imagine if the tax department, if you decided not to pay your taxes one year and they just said, you should, okay, are you going to pay them if that's all they're going to do? Maybe not. Maybe not. It's you might actually go to jail if you don't pay your taxes. You might go to jail, or you might get kicked out of your apartment if you don't pay your rent. It's not the being told you should pay your rent. It's the consequence if you don't. We all live by consequences, and yet you expect a 2-year-old or a 5-year-old to not? You just expect them to be able to lecture them and they're going to listen to you? It just makes no sense at all. I can't even, my head doesn't even go there. Makes no sense at all. It's consequences. Knee-jerk reaction. I used to say to my kids, if you're good, life is good. If you're bad, life ain't so good. I'll make sure of it because I'm your mom. That's my job, right? They got to learn there's a consequence for what you do and what you say. Not so much what they say when they're young. Okay, I want to clarify that. If they swear or name call, there is a consequence. But if it's just attitude saying, I hate you, there's no consequence for that. That means you're not a leader and they don't respect you. All that attitude is your fault. It's not their fault. You can't blame them for that. But you can address swearing or name calling. I hope I get my point across about all this stuff with this lecturing and discussing all their bad behavior. It's just so disrespectful and mean and doesn't work anyway. Oh, if you want to know consequences, just check out my behavior board. There's lots of ideas on there. My sample is always do a chore within 15 minutes of being asked to do so. As a consequence, if they won't do that, then it's 24-hour media blackout. But there's lots of other stuff you can do. It's on the behavior board. You can check that out. Or if you want to go further, that would be the boot camp courses. My wife and I have been ignoring tantrums. He seems to do it for attention. Yeah. My son doesn't like, they never just have a tantrum all by themselves. The odd time they will once they've started up, but generally it's for attention. My son doesn't care for consequences, no matter what we take or have him do. We ignore the tantrums and my 4-year-old gets worse. You're missing something. You're either not doing it right or you're missing something. If you were to throw timeout into my methods, it would tank because timeout is so disrespectful. And I think it's mean. So yeah, you're just missing something. I don't know. You might want to even check into the boot camp course. It's just really inclusive. It goes into everything, right? So oftentimes you might be doing one thing right, but you might be doing something else really not right or wrong, and it can just wreck the other thing. So it could be that. Are you connecting after the tantrum? If you don't connect right after a tantrum, you can't ignore a tantrum. That's just awful. So this is how you ignore a tantrum. You're just like doing your nails while they're screaming. You're just looking at them. As soon as they stop, you go, oh, you all done? Do you want to go read a book? Connect. If they say, no, I hate you. Okay, never mind. Go like that. As soon as they stop again, you ready for that book now? See, you're letting them know that when they're acting crazy and screaming, you do not give that any attention. As soon as they stop, you got to connect. You're not juggling at the circus for them, but you just connect by talking to them, basically, and inviting them to maybe read a book with you. Or do you want to sing a song? Or you want to go help me do the dishes? Or you're just trying to connect. You're letting them know. As soon as you stop that crazy behavior, then you'll get attention. You see? Without that connection afterwards, ignoring a tantrum is just nasty. Right? What's interesting is when I'm coaching, I love coaching. I really do. And a lot of it is, I'm not a marriage counselor. I have no qualifications. Everything it's all kids taught me all this. Teenagers taught me all this. My own kids, whatever. But yeah, and I was going to be a child psychologist, but they kicked me out because I asked too many questions. This is 40 years ago. What they were teaching was garbage. It's just so patronizing towards kids. So, and thank God I never did that. Would have been under that umbrella and people would have had to tell me what I say and what I do. I wouldn't operate very well that way. Anyway, and I couldn't be a child psychologist. That's some of my clients are, but that's a business. It's completely different. I couldn't do that or teach or anything. Those are all different. I forgot what I was trying to say. Shoot, I got off on a stupid tangent. Anyway, I can't remember. Oh, geez, I almost had it for a second there. Does anyone remember what I started with? I'm 65. I'm starting to lose my brain cells here. The connection after a tantrum. I don't know. It's going to drive me nuts because it was a good point. I just lost it. Oh, God, I hate this one. Help with toddler slapping cat, trying to play. Yeah, if you can't control your toddler and keep your animals safe, find homes for your animals. I had animals. My kids always knew the rules. And we had dogs. And I say, you can't pick up the dog. They never did. And you don't run past the bird cage. It would startle the bird. So they just learned. And if I couldn't control my kids and keep my animals happy and safe, I would have rehomed them. I'm that much of an animal lover. I would never have an animal tortured in my home. So sorry about that. Either keep them separate for now until you've got control over the toddler, or at least temporarily find a new home for them. Maybe you can get them back later. But sorry, there's no way I'd allow that in my home. I remember we used to have kids come over sometimes and they'd try and pick up the dog. Didn't go over well with me. Yeah, that's why I usually put the dog somewhere else when I had other kids over. I know what I was going to say. With families, when they hire me, often the parents aren't on the same page, and I'm not a therapist or anything. So, but I do. They say I'm a marriage counselor too, but I'm not qualified to do that. Okay, but it comes up a lot. Is the parents aren't. And what usually happens is that they're trying to balance each other out, and they do it like if they do it overextended because the other parent overbalances. This happens all the time with clients. I would say probably 5 or 6 times a week we're talking about it, right? And it's so common. And it makes perfect sense because if you feel that one parent's being too tough because they're trying to be the authority, which I don't teach, then you're going to go softer because you think, well, the poor kid, they're being tortured by the authority. And then the pleaser just gives in to everything. And then the authority gets tougher trying to overcompensate. So yeah, I teach leadership. It's nothing like either one of those two. The authority is not a horrible way to parent. The pleaser parent style is a disaster. They will rebel against the authority in the teen years, but they won't against a leader. They've got nothing to rebel against with a leader because it's like we're working together, sort of. It's just different. And I'm accountable too. If you're not accountable for your own mistakes and the kids aren't allowed to discipline you, you're not a leader. You're an authority, right? You're the dictator. So yeah, I was accountable, believe me. And your kids should be able to speak up. If they don't like the way they're being parented, they should be able to say something and you should listen. Okay. If you have a very respectful relationship with your kids, and like if my kids had said, Mom, I'm not happy with the way you're treating me. If they'd said that, I would have been devastated. I would have said, tell me what am I doing? But they would have come at me with respect anyway. So that's the relationship you want to have. You want them to be able to tell you anything. That's a leader, right? But yeah, if you are fighting with your spouse, think about it. You're probably trying to overcompensate for the other one. So find a way that suits you and both commit to it. Qualifications. Oh, I have none. None. Thank God. Because then I'd be under someone's umbrella, right? I'd be under some authority's umbrella. So yeah, I don't have any. Just kids taught me all this. And I used to. It was the troubled teens that I mentored. They're the ones who said, you got to teach this, Lisa. And I didn't do it for years and years and years. And I never, ever, ever expected to do this. I started volunteering in daycare centers when I was 11. I also started babysitting at 11 years old. So I was weird. I always just understood kids. And I remember the daycare ladies used to say, how do you do that? You're crazy with them, but they listen to you. So yeah, so I always kind of knew how to do this. I was just meant to do this, I think. But I just was volunteering for like 40 years before I ever started my business. So 30 years probably. Anyway, interesting, eh? Like, oftentimes if you don't know what you should be doing in your career, like if you're younger and you're not sure where you should be going, what do you find yourself doing in your spare time all the time? Are you good at it? Is it going to help other people? Yeah. What else does your course offer? I have 2 courses, one for toddlers, which is more reactive because every toddler is different. We don't really have a plan with toddlers because they're kind of, a little bit nuts anyway. They're just forming. They might even go like this and smear poop on the wall. They don't make a lot of sense. Okay. So then by the age of 3, they have the ability, the frontal lobe is starting to develop. I always think of it like that funny thing hanging down the back of your throat, like a punching bag. It looks nothing like that. I've looked it up. But the frontal lobe is the sense of reasoning, when they can stop and think before they act. Doesn't mean they will, but they have the ability to start learning that. That's why we use a behavior board. It goes into all sorts of other stuff, all sorts of stuff that comes up. Also in the courses, I've done some Q&As with people in the course, like live, like, we do like a group coaching session, basically. A lot of parents watch those. My daughter took them down once because we thought, oh, no one's going to watch these. So she took them down for she was just doing something with them. She got all these emails. What had happened to the Q&As? What happened to the group coaching sessions? So there's a whole bunch of stuff in those courses. I didn't think anyone would listen to that, but you love seeing other parents who are going through the same stuff, right? So yeah, we don't do that on a regular basis, just time constraints. We're so busy, but we'll probably end up doing that again one day. Is it just one or more? One or more what? Behavior boards? There's 3 behavior boards. You do 3 weeks, 3 different behavior boards. Is that it? Because they just said one or more, ? And then the only thing, okay, I've never used a behavior board. There's no way I would ever use one. I want kids looking right at me, not at a board, okay? It's a teaching tool for you. I don't teach kids, I teach parents here. So it's just a teaching tool to get you to understand there's rules and there's consequences for everybody, you included, okay? So it just gets you in the momentum of doing it and teach the kids that you're starting to get some leadership skills here, right? You're on that board too. That's why they love it. So, they love it initially when they see you on there. Anyway, it's just a teaching tool. And then once by the 4th week in the 3 to 12-year-old course, the boot camp course, in the 4th week, we get rid of the boards. You can still keep them if you want, but we're not focused on them anymore. Now you're dealing with everything, not just the 3 rules on the board, the 3 weeks. It's 1 battle per week, 1 rule per week. Yeah. Actually, where am I? Am I on Instagram? Okay, I got to move over to TikTok now. If you want to join me over there, it's BratBusters Parenting. If not, check out my website. It's bratbusters.com. You can get my free behavior board, my boot camp course for toddlers, or the other one for 3 to 12-year-olds. Or you can look into coaching if you want to work with me. I do have a big wait list, but I'll get to it eventually. I think I'm finishing up with a bunch of clients next week. I'm not sure, but they usually end up rehiring me. But I think I've got at least 2 that I know are not going to rehire me because they're doing really, really well. They don't need me anymore. And then you can also listen to the podcast if you want. It's called BratBusters Parenting Podcast. It's on all the platforms, and we save it on YouTube if you want to watch it. My daughter and I work together, and we film the podcast. So we put it on YouTube if you want to watch us do it. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. I'm hopping over to TikTok now, and I'm on YouTube the whole time whenever I'm doing a live. Happy parenting. We haven't had a viral video in quite some time, and we know exactly how to do one. We know exactly what people will tune into, but we don't operate that way. But it's funny because, we were just talking about that the other day. We know what a viral video is. Like, we know what people go in, but we just refuse to keep doing that because then we're not well-rounded, right? We're just focused on certain things that are real hot topics. This is a legacy business here. I want to do it right. I don't just want to go for numbers. I'm just waiting for everyone to turn up here. That's why I just yabber on while I'm waiting. What does that mean? Someone reposted. I don't know what that means. TikTok, I have no idea. There's so many different things on here. Like, there's just so many different little boxes that are telling me things. I don't know what anything means on here. But I've only done a couple thousand. No, I've done a lot more than that. I've only done a few thousand lives. Maybe one day I'll learn. I never know what I'm doing. Okay. Okay, yeah, spring forward. We've got is daylight savings tomorrow? Is it really? Wow. There was talk about getting rid of that. In Australia, I lived there for 20 years, and they got rid of daylight savings for years, and then they brought it back. Oh, it was awful when they got rid of it. Oh, yeah, it is tomorrow. That was just in Queensland. Every state was different. I think Queensland was the only one that did get rid of it for a while, about 10 years there, I think. Okay, so welcome to the live. I'm on TikTok now, and I'm on YouTube the whole time whenever I do a live. And then I also hop from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok. And welcome to the live. My name is Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. If you go on my website, it's BratBusters.com. You can get my free behavior board. You can look into my boot camp courses. I have one for toddlers, one for older kids. If you want to work with me one-on-one, that would be coaching. It's a big wait list, but I'll get to that eventually. And if you just want to listen to our podcast, it's called BratBusters Parenting Podcast. It's on all the platforms, and we save it on YouTube if you want to watch us do it, because we film ourselves. Mother-daughter, we get the giggles a lot, but she edits most of that out because we get silly. But we're pretty good. We're pretty good at staying on point because I don't like her to have to edit very much. It's a lot of work. I wouldn't have a clue how to do any of that. And no, she does not work for me. We are partners. I work for her. She does all the planning and all the marketing. Oh, this is sweet. Austin says, hello, I really resonated with your last podcast, mostly with my own upbringing. Was that the pleaser parent one? I never know what's just come out, but I think it was the pleaser parent one because someone else emailed me about that one. You know, we tend to parent, we bring a lot from our own childhood. I think my parents let me get away with too much, for sure. I wasn't disciplined enough, but I was a problem solver. I had very high self-esteem. I knew how to handle myself. I liked humor. I was raised very funny family. Yeah, so I think I don't let my kids get away with anything. They were more lenient that way. I was adopted later in life by them, and I think they just sort of let me get away with too much, to be honest. But my mom was a leader. I really cared what she thought. If I ever got the eye from her like that, oh, I hated it because I looked up to her. My dad, he never gave me the eye. He just spoiled me, but he died when I was young, so it was kind of sad, but it was very sad. But yeah, so I brought a lot of that. I've never been yelled at or anything, so I never yelled at my kids. I brought a lot of the way I was raised. I always felt extremely heard. I could tell my mom anything, and I did. I told her everything. And I always felt really heard and really respected. So that's huge. And I don't know any of my friends who felt that way. I really don't. They all used to say, you're so lucky. Your mom was just so great. She's like your best friend. And I was very lucky. And so that really helped me a lot in how I formed. And losing my dad young, it was horrible disease, cancer. And losing him young, it made me a much better person too. It just changed me. You lose your childhood when you lose a parent young. And it made me a better person. I would rather be a worse person and have had him longer. But the only benefit to losing him was it made me a better person. But anyway, so yeah, I was very lucky with my parents. They were both very loving. I always felt heard and respected. And that's a lot. That was back in the day too. I was born in 1960. It just wasn't like that back then. Parents were authorities. There was a huge, sort of different generational gap. So they tend to hide things from their parents, and they felt their parents couldn't understand them. I always felt understood and listened to. And that just was not done back then. It was very rare. I don't remember ever having a friend who felt the same way about their parents that I did. So yeah, anyway. But if you weren't raised like that, you're not your parents. They did the best they could or the best they knew how, right? So you're not your parents though. You can assess the way you were raised, pick and choose what you did like, right? And you didn't like, and you're not your parents. You don't have to repeat everything they did. Like, I'm quite different. I was tougher on my kids, also a lot goofier. I'm a very goofy mother. So my parents were not goofy at all. But they're very funny, but not goofy. And I was on the floor rolling around with my kids, chasing them around the house with underpants on my head. I couldn't fathom my mother doing. I couldn't fathom my mother doing anything like that at all. My dad would have been more likely to do that, but they weren't silly, right? Whereas I was. So we're very different personalities, but still the leadership was there, right? Thought of my mother doing that would never have happened, whereas I did that every day. So, although I remember my son was 18 and I wore underpants as I walked past him and his friends, and he just said to me, "Mom, enough with the underpants on the head." His friends hadn't seen that before. They're like, "What?" Oh, poor guy. But it didn't faze him. He was used to me. Okay. How do you handle siblings fighting? My 4 and 12-year-old can't share. Okay. There's so many different ways I could talk about this. But generally, you don't expect a 2-year-old to be able to share. You just, the 4-year-old can learn that. Okay. But what you do focus on is no grabbing toys off others. That's what you focus on with a 4-year-old, and same with the 2-year-old. That's what you focus on. Okay. Here's what happens though. Parents get this wrong a lot. They go after the hitter. So usually often what will happen is one kid will grab a toy off one, the other kid will hit them, and then the kid who hit gets in trouble. What about the one who started it? I go after both, but I really go after the one who started it first. I say, look, you grab the toy off him, you're going to get a consequence. 2-year-old won't really understand that. You just give the toy back to the 4-year-old. Also, there's so many other things I could say about that. You have to give the 4-year-old his own space to play with his toys. And you say to him, look, if you don't want to be disturbed by your little brother or little sister, whatever, you can go in your bedroom, shut the door, or play on the dining room table, and I'll keep them away from there. We can put up a gate, whatever, keep them away. But if you're playing out in an open area, it's a free for all. Don't expect to not have your blocks knocked over or whatever they're getting into. So you got to consider that too. Also watch who's starting the problem. Oftentimes parents get that wrong. They go after the hitter. You do that too, but you go after the one who started it. Okay. And as they get older, this is starting it. We're touching. I'd say, well, you started it by teasing your brother, so you're going to get a consequence. It's when they're 3 and above, they get consequences like this. You're going to get a consequence. Plus you retaliated. Next time you'll know that if he starts something, just ignore him or walk away. Or if it's something really bad, you can come tell me. Then I'll deal with him. So you see, they often get that wrong. They just go after the one that they see hit, whereas they're not the one who started it. I go after both. I remember years ago, I had a client and they said, and I always say which kid's our target, right? It often changes, but I'll say which kid's our target, like the one that's really driving you nuts at the moment. Sometimes it's all of them, but often there's one that they think is the real target. So, and often I say, no, that's not the one we're going to go after here. I said, it's the other one that's causing all the problems. And they'll go, what are you talking about? But I can just tell by the way they're talking. I can just tell by the way that the target is responding. They freak out. They hit the other one. They're freaking. And I said, yeah, what caused that? Like they don't usually do that. And what are they like at school? If they're doing that at school too, then it might be them. But if they're really good at school and at home, they're freaking out and hitting their younger sibling or the other sibling, they're usually not the target. I usually go after the other one. So parents are often shocked at that. And then once we get into it, they go, you're right. You're right. It is the other one. So yeah, you got to be careful. You got to kind of be a bit of a detective and figure out what's going on sometimes, right? My 5-year-old has really severe bedtime separation anxiety. How can I help her? Well, you said the word anxiety, which is a mental health issue. So now my hands are kind of tied. Generally, if it's not a mental health issue and they don't have severe anxiety, mental health problems, right? A 5-year-old doesn't usually. I would just say that, yeah, they just don't like being in bed alone. I would have like a Galaxy lights. I might have a sound machine. I might buy them a new plushie they can cuddle and just let them get used to being alone. Leave the door open so they can come out. Every time they come out, you just walk them back to bed and you just say, bedtime, stay in bed, keep walking them back to bed. But yeah, you said anxiety. It threw me off because I can't really I'm not qualified to discuss that. Mental health issues. See where I'm coming from? Have you noticed these days that everyone seems to have mental health problems? They use it all the time. You looked at me the wrong way. You're not sensitive to my mental health. It's just so overused these days. You know where that comes from? A lot of people do have mental health problems, but it's so overused. and the victim mentality, right? So that comes from the pleaser parent style. I used to say 40 years ago when I saw that coming in with participation awards, stupidest thing ever. I couldn't believe it when I heard that. I thought it was a joke. And they said, no, they get awards just for turning up. Anyway, enough of that. Anyway, so when that first started coming in, I used to say, you're raising self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. I remember saying that. I always used to say that, this pleaser parent style, it came in with a bang because it sounds lovely, but it's horrible. It's useless. And I thought, yeah, you're raising self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. Now everyone seems to be crying mental health. It's just this thing. I saw it coming 40 years ago. Where's the strength? If you have mental health issues, that's different, but it's so overused. If it's just thrown out there just to get sympathy and just to get your own way. Where's the fortitude? Where's the strength, the problem solving, where's the strength and I don't know. It's just, that's because they got an award just for doing nothing. That's why. And they expect it to keep happening. Okay. A lot of people talk about their own childhood. It's just a few comments on here about that. A lot of people talk about that. And the thing is, at some point, you have to get past that. You have to stop blaming your parents and move past it and say, you know what, I'm not them. They did the best they could or the best they knew how. No one has handed a baby in the hospital and says, I'm going to mess you up. They did the best they could. Okay. So have compassion for that and just do better. That's all. Do better. I know it's hard. I get it. I did have the benefit of having parents that I thought were pretty fabulous. They weren't perfect, but I thought they were pretty great. So looking back, especially, I look back and I think, yeah, I was never yelled at. Always felt so heard and so understood. Told my mother everything. The poor woman. She told me years later, I used to go in my room after talking to you and go, oh my God. That's when I was a teenager. You can imagine. Okay. Any advice for a toddler teacher sharing these strategies with families? Absolutely none. I don't teach teaching. I know nothing about it. I only teach parents. Bedtime. Oh, good night, Tabitha. Bedtime routine is starting. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks for turning up. Well, someone beautifully me, good, you got a good self-image, good for you, says lots of tantrums. What does this mean? I don't know. It depends on the age. Some 2-year-olds just start having tantrums and it's just something in their DNA. It's your job to train them out of them though. I have too many videos on tantrums and you can just Google BratBusters tantrums, tons of videos out there. I don't know why they're having them because I would have to ask questions, but they are born to have them or they're never going to have them. There's 4 things they're born to do or they're never going to do. One is tantrums, one is aggressive behavior, one is running, and one is climbing. Those are 4 things in their DNA. They're going to give it a go when they're young, when they're toddlers, but you can train them out of those things. Okay. The runners and climbers often go together when they run away from you or when they climb a lot. They have no fear, right? They're really adventuresome. But they don't always go together, but they often do. And the aggressive behavior is the hitting, the biting, all that stuff. That some kids will never do that. And some kids, my kids just, the one thing they did was my son had tantrums. He didn't have a lot of them, but they didn't, that's the only thing they had. And I remember I was doing a live once and someone said, oh, my kids have all 7. I thought that was so funny. There's only 4. I thought that was funny. Okay. Okay, I like this. Baby Buffalo. You just said people are intentionally raising mentally ill snowflakes. You definitely are unqualified. I never said the word intentionally, so you got that one wrong. Okay. If you're going to quote me, just try and get it right anyway. Okay. 2.5-year-old asks same questions over and over, even when given an answer. Oh, okay. So you just say, answer the question, say blah, 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 and then say, I already answered that. Okay. And then you change the subject. You control the narrative. You control the energy. Okay. So if they keep asking, And then you can say, I've already answered that. And the answer is this. So you can say it twice. And the answer is this, right? They just keep, because they know once you've answered something, they love repetition. How many times have I read Green Eggs and Ham to my granddaughter, right? They love repetition, right? So that's part of it. But if you've already answered a question, just say, oh, I've already answered that. And the answer was blah, blah, blah. And then you change the subject. Okay. Advice. This is Fly Mama Coil. Advice on getting 4-year-old to listen, constantly repeating myself, tired of threatening things. That just says they don't respect you. That's all. You got to earn that respect. You got to set yourself up as a leader. They listen to a leader. If they don't respect you, they're not going to listen to anything you say. So it's all you. You got to work on yourself. Remember, we're not fixing kids here. We're fixing and teaching parents. Okay? I've never met a kid I couldn't get respect with. And I never worked with an easy kid. I was never once asked to work with an easy kid. Not once, not ever. They'd always hand me a kid or a teenager that had behavioral issues. And it was kind of like this. Good luck with this one. So those are all the kids. And I loved it. That's why I'm teaching this stuff, because I love all that stuff, right? But yeah, it's you. They will all respect a leader. They just do. The older they get, the harder it can get to. No, spanking's never appropriate. No. It's something that you do because you don't know what else to do, or you lose control. Okay. Lots of people make mistakes. Don't beat yourself up over it. But yeah, it's never the right thing to do, ever. Oh, I don't have tips on potty training. I have a whole system in how you potty train. It's a whole thing. I used to have it as a separate course. Now that little mini course for potty training, it's a whole course though. That is in my other courses, in both of them, in the boot camp courses. The reason why we don't sell the mini courses anymore, we used to have 4 of them that we sold separately. One was potty training, one was tantrums, one was aggressive behavior, and the other one, I can't remember what it was. I can never remember the 4th. Anyway, the reason why we don't sell them separately anymore is because they're not inclusive. Like, what I mean by that is, like, if you just bought the potty training one, then parents would say, well, what if they have a tantrum while we're doing that? Then I said, well, that's the tantrum course. Then they'd say, well, what if they hit while they're having a tantrum? Well, that's the aggressive behavior course. So they needed to all be grouped together. It just wasn't working because there was too many questions around each course that they needed to know the whole package. So that's why we don't sell them separately anymore. We stopped about 2 years ago, maybe, but people still ask if they can buy them separate, but no. You could do a super nanny type of thing, but for the parents. Yeah, I've been offered a couple times by big networks to do that kind of show. I've never seen it, but I had to watch it once because they said it's like the super nanny, but with teenagers, because I specialize in teenagers, right? And this is 20 years ago or whatever. And I said to them, I would love to be able to help, but I said I would need creative control because I will not go on TV and embarrass a family. No freaking way. And then they said, well, you're out of here. Thank God. I couldn't do it. I couldn't go on TV and embarrass people because they're going to be embarrassed in order to get, like, I think about coaching. It is so personal and so private. And I'm very protective of that, right? I couldn't do that on TV. Imagine if you embarrassed kids on TV or teenagers on TV and then they see it, their friends see it. Who knows what they could do? It would be humiliating. Thank God. I don't know if it ever took off, if anyone ever did it, because I don't look at any parenting stuff. I stay away from all that. I'm very careful. So if I'm ever criticizing anything, I've never seen it. So it's just, whatever. But yeah, I could never do that with a conscience ever. And the stuff, and plus in coaching, it has to be really personal because, we're dealing with people's lives and their feelings and they tell me stuff, and it's so personal. I couldn't coach effectively because I'd be thinking the whole time, I don't want this on TV. So the whole time I'd be doing that, all I'd be thinking is edit out, edit out, edit out. There'd be like 2 minutes and it would just be, hi, nice to meet you. Total train wreck. Oh, how sweet. Thank you so much, Ferris. I appreciate that. I love this. And you know why? Because I'm not a mother anymore. I mean, my kids are all grown and I only have my granddaughter 1 day a week. This is my mothering. I feel like I've got all these maternal things going on inside me all the time. And this is my mothering. It's how I feel. I feel like I'm mothering everyone. I love that. I feel very protective, because you're very vulnerable when you're a parent. And there's a lot of criticism out there. There's a lot of people who want to knock you down. And, I've seen some horrible stuff where people have said they posted something online about their kids, and then people have come out and said horrible, horrible things to them and about their kids. So, yeah, I don't like bullies. And whenever anyone says anything nasty, you think about where it's coming from. There's that saying, hurt people hurt people. So you can't, if you like yourself and you're happy, you can't be mean. It's impossible, right? You just can't. You're on cloud nine. You know what I mean? Like you can't. Think about the damage that's coming from. That's whenever someone says something nasty to me, I think, wow, they're hurting inside. Doesn't mean I want to help them necessarily. It's just like, go go do something else. But it's like online stuff, right? It's just doesn't bother me at all. They've got stuff they're going through for sure. What's my favorite song? I don't think I have one. I like my favorite album for a long time was NWA's Greatest Hits. I won't repeat that. I listened to that so much. And I still listen to a lot of that at the gym. What is your favorite quote? Happiness is a choice. My mom used to say that all the time. She was my idol. I love my mom. She was my best friend. She died in my arms 10 years ago at 93. And she always used to say, happiness is a choice, not a circumstance. She knew how to turn any lemon into lemonade. I was 14 when my dad died, and we both sobbed in each other's arms because we got the call from the hospital. He had cancer. So it was a long, slow death. It was awful. So anyway, we were crying in each other's arms. And about 5 minutes later, she straightens herself up and she goes, weren't we lucky to have him all those years? That was my mom. Happiness is a choice. Wow. Isn't that amazing? I actually found that really annoying when she said that. Mom, he just died. She goes, I know, I'm going to call everyone now. I'm going to invite everyone over. We're going to all talk about the good times. And she did. I laid in bed crying, listened to them all laugh all night, and they just had a blast. And then mom would have gone to bed crying. But that was my mom. She was a joy-seeking missile. So, yeah, very unusual. Okay, I got to get going now. Thanks so much for joining me. If you check out my website, it's BratBusters.com. You can get my free behavior board. You can look into my boot camp courses. I have one for toddlers, one for older kids. If you want to work with me one-on-one, that's coaching. And I do have a big wait list, but I'll get through that eventually. And you can look into our podcast if you want to listen to that. It's called BratBusters Parenting Podcast. It's on all the platforms, and we save it on YouTube. If you want to watch us do it, mother-daughter, we do the podcast together. We work together. She does all my marketing and all my planning. Thanks so much for joining me. Happy parenting.